Welcome to the Sportscast from the Queen City. From the Queen City, we're your hosts, Stephen
Zach.
and we're going to be talking about the Reds hiring Terry Francona as the new manager, the Bengals getting their first win of the season, the Bengals versus the Ravens tomorrow evening or tomorrow, and the upset probably of the last 50 years. So we're going to start off with the Reds hiring Terry Francona happened over at the beginning of the week, which was really exciting.
It's a year after he announced his retirement from baseball, too, which is even crazier to think about.
Yeah, he's pretty much a future Hall of Fame manager, so it's really
Someone that neither of us thought about.
that is true. I wasn't expecting them to pull someone out of retirement. I was expecting maybe a Skip Schumacher, who's been a pretty good manager, not this year because Miami doesn't have the talent, but overall, he's been a good manager. Terry Francona, Hall of Fame manager, and the Reds are doing what a few other organizations have done recently, like the Astros with Dusty Baker,
Getting a veteran.
um, g- getting
Someone that's
the
been
Texas
around,
Rangers also
someone
did
that's
this.
been around the baseball league for a while, someone that's been in the MLB for a while.
Pretty
A
much the
seasoned
person.
vet.
It's really good because I heard that he interviewed them, which seems to be a good it's a good sign
Well,
as his
I,
team needed someone to really just this team's young and this team
yes,
needed leadership.
this team is young and talented. I think everyone in Cincinnati knows that this team is young and talented.
Unfortunately, there's a lot of players that aren't playing up to their potential. They're not playing with enough discipline. Some even top guys are kind of slacking a bit, and I think that Terry Francona brings oh, a veteran like a veteran presence in the locker room, and they really needed him.
I think he's also going to be someone that brings in the championship mentality into the locker room. He's won two World Series. He's his teams haven't. I don't think he's managed many teams that didn't make the playoffs, other than probably early years for him. But like his most memorable times, I don't think he missed the playoffs much. And if
I
he did
mean,
make the playoffs, you had to game plan for his teams because his teams were going to threaten to go to the World Series.
just look at his last year in Cleveland. Carried a young team that, quite frankly, no one thought they were going to be like sniff the playoffs, and they made the playoffs as the youngest team in baseball. And he looks to do this again with this team in Cincinnati.
I think that could have been the thing that attracted him to the job too. You know, someone like Ellie and the pitching that we have, the pitchers we have, like just the young guys, I think was something that possibly could have drawn him to just want to manage the Reds. Just seeing all the talent that's there, and he may just want to bring the talent out of the Reds.
And they signed him to a 3-year deal with a club option in 2028.
That's big. I
Uh,
like that.
I'm going to go through some of his accolades. Three-time AL Manager of the Year. Spent some time in Arizona. You know, kept a low profile. Went to Cleveland. Went back to Cleveland. And as a manager, he is 1950 and 106, 1672 as his record for 23 years as a big league manager.
With two World Series under his belt.
With the Philadelphia Phillies, as his first stint, his second stint with the Red Sox, that obviously. won a couple of championships, and Cleveland. So he's been through it. He's been through all of the highs and the lows. He's just, quite frankly, he's just a legendary manager.
I think if we're going to be honest here, he's going to be a manager that's going to be like, he's not going to put up with much. So there's some players that, I hate to say it, like a Will Benson who didn't hit that well this past season.
It's gonna be Will Benson. It's
If
gonna be
he
Ellie Dela
doesn't show
Cruz.
improvement, then Will Benson may just not make the roster. Unfortunately, for some people that are Will Benson fans, it's a harsh reality. Francona is going to try to bring out the best in the players, and I feel like if Will Benson and the other players, that just haven't been holding up their end of it, aren't doing it, then obviously it's going to be a change for Reds fans that may be hard to swallow right away. Or maybe the Reds fans are like, yeah, no, this is what we needed. Go ahead, do it.
And Will
Um,
Benson isn't the only player.
I don't think he's gonna move a lot of the players. I think it's just gonna be more of a, if a Will Benson's not hitting that well, then he's gonna be in the minors he's got to be in the minors improving it.
Well, that's not gonna be his decision as the manager. It's gonna be Nick Kral's decision most of the time for that, as he's the GM. But it's going to be up to everyone in that locker room, including Ellie Dela Cruz, to step it up, and everyone needs to mature. Every single player, including Ellie Dela Cruz, Jonathan India,
Yep, I agree.
all of them. The only person that I would probably say is he only one that's demonstrated the most leadership qualities has been Tyler Stevenson, and
I agree with that wholeheartedly.
Jamer Candelario needs to play better. Everyone needs to play better this next season.
This also raises the question of what's the fielding situation going to look like. You and I have talked about it in other episodes, but like this is Francona. What's he going to do with some of these guys that where like first base could be stacked with guys? Like what's he going to do with these stacked, like these stacked players at these positions? Like first base could have Candelario, France, and CES. Third base could have two or three others. Like Espinal wasn't bad, but then you could have like an India that could play third, and you could have Candelario there as an option at third as well. Like he's gonna have some options for things. Where do you think he could move some of these players? I know we talked about it before, but Francona is a guy that as legendary a name as it is. Where do you think some of these guys could move with him being the option that we have now?
Well, this all starts with Matt McClain and how healthy he is. There's just going to be a lot of talent coming through the ranks, and everyone's going to have to step up. I don't expect Ty France to be on this team.
He
Um,
is through the contract. I looked it up. He's not a free agent until next year.
yes, this all season. So he's not going to be on this
Ah,
roster next.
yes.
He's not going
Okay.
to be on this
I got
roster next
confused.
year. He's not going to be on this roster next year. Um, unless they truly don't feel that Matt McClain and a few other players aren't healthy enough to play. They're going to play those young guys. They have very low impact contracts, and they're going to have to work on playing together, playing consistently, and just overall working so that they don't get injured constantly throughout the season. It seems to be a common theme over the last 2 years, especially with
Well,
the
I
pitchers.
mean, look at Matt McClain. Like we talked about this in one of the episodes before, he was going through rehab for an injury. He was looking on the up and up, and then he got hurt doing rehab to get back. It's like I don't know if he's got a fragile body now or what. Like that's my only concern coming forward now is like
Well,
Matt McClain, how fragile is Matt McClain?
He's not
Not that I'm
fragile.
not
He's
that
not
I'm
fragile at all. It's
striking him
more
as
so
that.
that
It's
the
just
Reds
a
training
concern.
staff was very bad. They were very bad. They didn't even know that he was more injured than he appeared in their eyes. So when he got the second opinion from outside doctors, they were able to see that he was very injured and he really needed to stay out. And I saw some clips, I think this week, of him hitting the baseball, and he looks pretty good. So all signs point up to him being ready by spring training. And now I want to talk about the Bengals getting their first win. I know that was a very important thing for Bengals fans.
Yes. Coming against the Panthers, went into it kind of expecting it, but you can never take anything for granted. It's the NFL.
NFL's,
These are grown men. You can't take any of that. You can't just expect it to happen. I will say it was a grindy first half. The defense was not looking too great to begin with. But I will say they did clean it up. CTB, brother, get yourself together.
he got
CTB
benched.
has to clean himself up because he got killed again this week on a
The
few
whole
routes.
the whole defense needs some help. They
Well,
could
the bright spot was DJ Turner, if I'm being honest. The snaps that he was in, this man was not letting anything go through. He broke up two touchdown passes. Like those, and they were good balls by Andy Dalton. Like great throws. DJ Turner broke them up. Like, uh, please give me more DJ Turner if he's going to play like this. CTB just has to stop talking. Like, I'm sorry, he just has to. I'm tired of him talking and then going out there and getting burnt toast. Like, stop and
it's a
focus on
little
the game.
he's the new Eli Apple of the team, so
Well, and like
that's
we said, either last episode or the episode before, the defense when Eli Apple was talking at the time, the
it was
DBs and the
good.
defense could stop it. They could back that up. But this year
I
you
mean that
cannot
ta
back it up, so stop.
I mean they had a lot of talent on that back end. Jesse Bates, Von Bell, Chidobe, Awuzie, Mike Hilton's still there, but you know, as a nickel,
It's hard
Eli
for him to
Apple
do
was
much when he's got Cam Taylor Britt and then a young Dax Hill that hasn't played corner. It's hard. Mike Hill's essentially carrying the load since Cam Taylor Britt's getting burnt so much, and Dax Hill's just fresh. He's still trying to get the position down. So, I mean, I don't know what else to say about the corners other than Cam Taylor Britt needs to stop talking. You're
well on
getting
the bright
burnt too
side.
much to talk.
Well, on the bright side, I mean, not Andy Dalton. Well, Andy Dalton's been doing great as well,
Yeah.
but Joe Burrow has been absolutely surgical with the football this season through the first 4 weeks.
The only
And
issue I have from that Panthers game with Joe Burrow, he had a wide open Mike Gesicki in the touchdown in the end zone, and he didn't throw it to him for a touchdown. He tried to force it to T, and instead of getting it to Mike Gesicki for the easy touchdown, he forced it to T. That's the only issue I have with Joe Burrow so far this year. He missed a wide open Gesicki. Just let Gesicki get his gritty in, let him get his touchdown, get his gritty. We're good to go. On to the
ugh,
next.
ugh, that
Hey,
gritty is
Jamar and T might have cleaned it up. We haven't seen it yet because he hasn't gotten a touchdown yet. But I feel
I
like
think
those two had to have cleaned him up a little bit.
I saw the one, but
Hey,
it was nasty.
it's gonna take a little bit. It's gonna take a little bit.
I think we got to take his dancing privileges away from him, but maybe get him like maybe have him do the swag surf. I don't know. I don't know. Kirk Cousins was hitting it. Kirk
Hey,
Cousins was hitting it.
but the Bengals' next problem is gonna be the freaking Ravens, the freaking Ravens, who
The
are
Derrick Henry.
not shockingly first in rushing yards per game.
Yeah, Derrick Henry.
And Derrick Henry
Derrick
is
Henry. King
Derrick
Henry.
Henry is 18 yards away from 10,000 yards rushing.
Yes.
Breaking news. Derrick
There,
Henry is him again. Hey, red flag, red
him again.
alarm,
Oh,
siren.
he's
He is
always been
him.
him. He's always been him.
This man
He's
is
been
18
him.
yards away, and
He was
that's
born
probably,
him.
if we're going to be honest, he's going to get those 18 plays. If it's not the first play, it'll be the first 2 to 3 plays. He's going to get 10,000 yards, which will put him in a breed of running backs that we are probably never going to see again. Like, the next closest running back to getting 10,000 yards is Ezekiel Elliott. And I don't think Ezekiel Elliott's going to be in the league much longer, let
Uh,
alone be able to produce enough to get 10,000 yards.
yeah, no, they don't run the football in Dallas.
Well, and if
Well,
you
when they
look at
do,
him,
he
he's
doesn't get very
past
many
his
yards.
prime.
He's
He's past his
washed.
prime. The offensive line's past their prime. It's like if Ezekiel Elliott would not have left the Dallas Cowboys, maybe, but that's still a toss up. But
I
Derrick
think
Henry,
they got rid
almost
of him
10,000
because he was
yards,
washed.
and we've got to witness this. This is greatness everyone gets to witness, which is crazy.
Yeah, one of my favorite players, pretty much of my lifetime. I didn't get to see Eddie George. I didn't get to see, the Chris Johnsons of the world. Um, but he's probably the best running back I'll probably ever see.
Definitely the
I
best I'll ever see.
and we've seen, well, I've seen Jerome Bettis.
Rudy
Other,
Johnson was a great Bengals running
I've
back
seen
for that time.
Cedric Benson. I've seen,
Yep. RIP.
man,
Matt Forte,
Matt Forte,
LT.
Reggie Bush, which I did see a clip of him uh getting absolutely killed by a pass from Drew Brees, which was pretty hilarious
Hey, it
from
happens.
podcast. But they're gonna have to figure out how to stop Lamar Jackson and the Ravens. And it's not just a one-man running machine, it's a
No.
two-man juggernaut and a elusive, pretty much oiled up Lamar Jackson.
Yeah, I mean, if we're being honest, we know that the Ravens don't pass the ball because and Mark Andrews lines up a tackle, but like I, it's so weird seeing this team, and Mark Andrews is still, I think, a catalyst for this offense to get going in the passing game.
I mean, he's been horrible.
And I'll be honest, they're just not getting him the ball. They're throwing it to Likely more. Likely's younger, I
Likely's
understand.
also better, I
But
think.
see,
He's
like, I
Mark
know he's
Andrews has been
quicker and
very
younger,
bad. Mark
but
Andrews has been very, very bad. I would throw the ball to Likely. He's been proven to be a very, very good player.
I think tight
Especially,
end is a position where you've got to get some type of groove going. So like if you throw Mark Andrews the ball two times and he doesn't there's nothing happening and then you just abandon him so he has no confidence, that can really hurt. Like I think tight end is a position where you've got to get your tight end's confidence. Obviously Isaiah Likely's on cloud nine, not struggling as much from what I've seen. But
he's been
like
absolutely balling.
the one
Him
thing
and
I'll
Zay
say is
Flowers.
Isaiah Likely can line up in slot, or at least honestly, if I was the Ravens, I would contemplate putting him in slot at certain times because who's going to guard a tight end that lines up in slot similar to what the Bengals do, putting Gesicki in at like the slot-ish position as like lining up as a wideout and then having a tight end line up. So like why not put Likely in that similar thing and then you open it up for Andrews. But again, that's their passing yards are 18th in the league. So obviously passing is in the back of a defense's mind. You've obviously got to think about it, but that's not your first priority is
I mean, they're
getting stopping
18th
their
because
pass.
they also destroyed the Cowboys.
Well,
And
if we're gonna be honest, who the Cowboys have other than Trevon Diggs?
Micah Parsons, Demarcus
I'm
Lawrence,
talking about corners that can stop the
uh
pass.
Deron Bland. He's also very good. They have good players. They, I don't think they're bought in, but they have good players. So I don't. They also destroyed the Bills. So they had two games where they
The
didn't need to
Bills
run the
seem
ball.
like they are
They didn't need to
flip-flop
pass
right
the
now.
ball.
They are a coin flip on who when depending on who they play.
Well, in prime time, they
Yeah.
absolutely mauled Miami, and then they got mauled by the Ravens the next week.
And I think
Uh,
if we're looking at the Bills is strictly just, hey, get the ball to Josh, and that's all we need to do. Just get the ball to Josh.
hey, it works. It
It does.
works.
I mean, we're looking at the Ravens, defensively,
Still very good.
they're ninth in sacks.
Yeah,
17th in interceptions, so they don't intercept the ball as much, but that doesn't matter when they're ninth in sacks. That means they're getting to the quarterback more than the quarterback has time to throw interceptions. Um, they're first in it looks like they're first in rushing yards against them. They only allow 57.
I mean, they're
So,
also they were destroying te two teams for 2 weeks. Kind of helps out with stopping the run when all they have to do is defend against the pass,
yeah.
especially with Roquan Smith, Kyle Van Noy, Humphrey, Kyle Hamilton, Marcus Williams. This team is just it's a really good defense. It's very
Now,
solid.
passing defense is not the greatest.
Well, I
They're
mean, they have
28th, but
it doesn't
when
matter.
when you're ninth in sacks, it doesn't matter.
And when you have the lead, it's kind of inevitable.
Yeah. I
So
think I think this is going to be one of the more entertaining and one of the better games this weekend. Mainly because the Bengals have been relatively good in both passing and running. Zach Moss has been fantastic. Chase Brown has been explosive. Zach Moss has been a dual threat, which I wasn't aware he was a dual threat because in Indy he just hard nosed downhill. But seeing him be able to catch the ball out of the backfield, he's a dual threat. I like it. Um, I just it's gonna come down to play calls, and I'm really hoping that Lou Anarumo and our offensive guys can get something going, especially Lou Anarumo against Derrick Henry. Because if he can't dial stuff up to just cause Derrick Henry issues, then it's going to be a long game.
I
It's going
mean,
to be us, it's going to be the Bengals trying to play catch up.
I mean
And
the biggest
I'm not
problem
the biggest
is
fan of that.
the biggest problem with that is Lamar Jackson's playing alongside him. You
Yeah.
either got to put 9 people in the box or count your stars, like because he's either going to run wild on you or Zay Flowers and Isaiah Likely is going to torch you down the field.
Derrick Henry's also 20 yards away from hitting 500 rushing yards, and we're only in week five,
Elite,
week four.
just elite. There are a few games that interest me besides this Bengals Ravens game, and I'm going to give a shout out to Kirk Cousins for
Kirko Chains.
having a spectacular game on Thursday night.
500 passing yards. Five football fields, bro.
4 touchdowns.
And
Just
he hit the coldest swag surf after the game.
best swag surf. Isaiah Hodges, great play. I mean, actually, Kadero Hodges, my apologies. Very nice play to end the game. There's a few games that are very interesting. There's one in the London game, the Jets versus the Vikings.
I forgot about that. I completely
Aaron
forgot we were
Rodgers
going to
face
London.
Aaron Rodgers faces his former nemesis of the Vikings. Um,
Sam
he
Darnold ain't seeing ghosts.
he's seeing JJ hitting the gritty in the end zone. That's what he's
He
seeing
ain't seeing
a lot
ghosts
of
in
the
the
game.
backfield this year. I know that was what a lot of people were saying. He's going to see ghosts in the backfield.
We're
Here's
gonna
my
see.
question. Where are the ghosts?
We're also gonna see the Colts versus the Jaguars, where the Jaguars may or may not drop the 0-5. Who knows if
That
Doug Peterson
team.
gets fired after that game? After that game,
You
and
hate to see it for Doug Peterson.
And there's also the Bills and the Texans game, the Stephon Diggs versus Josh Allen game.
Also,
And
CJ Stroud versus Josh Allen.
well,
CJ
I
Stroud, I think, has earned his
see,
flowers. He's just
but
struggled a
CJ
little bit
Stroud,
this season.
the thing is, CJ Stroud is a he's a spectator and he's a participant, but he's a spectator.
I was gonna
And
say, who's
the
going to get Stephon the
Josh
ball?
Allen, Josh Allen versus Stephon Diggs revenge game. It's going to be very, very interesting to see if the Josh and Friends team beats Stephon Diggs and CJ Stroud and the
It'll be
Texans.
interesting to see if Keon Coleman could have a breakout game.
It will be very, very interesting. It's
See if
a pretty good slot.
James
It's a
Cooks
pretty
can
good
still
slate.
cook, you know.
It's a pretty good slate of football games tomorrow.
Who's our
Um,
night
on
game?
the night game, it is the Cowboys and the Steelers. Uh,
Ooh, whoopee.
Who Mike Tomlin still somehow is a necromancer and gets his team to play
Hey,
very
Justin
well.
Fields been cooking so far. That's all I gotta say.
I don't know what Mike Tomlin does, but Mike Tomlin is arguably one of the best coaches. I mean, not
Here's my
arguably.
question. Here's
He
my
is one of
question.
the
If
best
you're a
coaches
Bears
in the
fan, how
NFL.
do you feel about this? Justin Fields is cooking, and Caleb Williams, with the weapons that Justin Fields didn't have, can't do much.
Organization, organization. Bears aren't. They can't develop quarterbacks. I mean, they can't. They're not good at helping their quarterbacks. Arthur Smith, who was very maligned in Atlanta, goes to Pittsburgh, gets to do his thing. And he just pretty much has Justin Fields doing pretty much anything that he does well and nothing that he doesn't. So I want to talk a little bit about this upset that happened a few hours ago. Vandy versus Alabama. That was a very, very juicy upset.
Yes. I didn't get to watch much of it. I'll be honest, I completely forgot that it was on the lineup. I thought this was Alabama's bye week. Um, but everything I've heard, Nick Saban said or 2 weeks ago, the place in the SEC that's not that hard to win at is Vandy.
He did say
But
that,
it didn't work out
and
well for Alabama.
no, it did not. And they
Uh,
also played those words over the speaker
did they
after they
really?
won. After they won.
I saw some Vandy fans were crying too after the game. Well deserved. Well deserved tears coming out of their eyes.
I also saw something I never thought I would see. Vandy fans pointing at the scoreboard at Alabama fans. Probably the funniest thing I've ever seen.
Uh, yeah. Got to bring up another upset though. I know this was Kentucky's bye week. We didn't get to talk about it much last week. Kentucky upset Ole Miss.
They did.
That Kentucky went into Ole Miss, had a nail biter of a game, and that offense finally is starting to look like it's coming together. Barryon Brown, Dane Key gonna be really good for Vandegrift if that offense can keep trucking this out. This is a much needed bye week, I would also say, for the teams that got them. Kentucky and UC, I know are two of them. I don't know who else had their bye weeks this week, but I
UC
know,
had their bye week this week.
yeah. So I think for a Kentucky team coming off that upset, having a bye week is really good. That team gets their chance to celebrate upsetting a top five team. You get your chance to celebrate and then focus and get ready for the next week. UC, I know, has been kind of up and down. You got to feel bad for a program like UC that can't keep a head coach.
Um, yeah, it's very tough for UC, but um, the Vanderbilt wasn't the only upset today. Washington upset Michigan and Minnesota upset USC. So
Well,
there was quite a bit of
when you
upsets
can't
and
when you
chaos.
can't read signs and know what's going to happen before the play, not much you can do.
I mean, I don't think they have a quarterback, so I don't even think they have a quarterback at Michigan, so that's kind of a rough set of circumstances for them. I am very interested to see if Tennessee could, I don't know, avoid the upset today against
That
Arkansas.
is a very tight game. That is a very tight game, and it's in the fourth quarter. That's a 1 point deficit right now, currently. That's crazy.
But I do know that next week is going to probably be the greatest slate of college football ever, and I feel bad for anybody that has a wedding to attend. It's going to be absolutely
If w- I'll be
epic.
honest with you, let's just go through some of these big matchups. You got Alabama and South Carolina. South Carolina's defense has been crazy so far. I know they've got two losses, but that defense is really good. Don't sleep on it.
Alabama coming off
And
that
Alabama's
upset.
coming off the upset, you know? It'll be interesting to see what happens. And then you've got Tennessee and Florida again, another SEC. Florida's not doing the best. They're 2-2, but this Tennessee team.
Then you have Penn State and USC.
And you've got
Uh,
the Big Ten, big game for Big Ten, two undefeateds, number three Ohio State and number six Oregon.
that's going to be a big matchup.
Yes,
Ohio State struggled a little bit today, but they ended up coming back and destroying Iowa
Iowa, yeah.
pretty handily. Um,
Another good SEC game this week too, or next week is going to be Ole Miss and LSU.
Yep.
That is in Baton Rouge.
I kind of want to talk a little bit about the Oregon Ohio State game.
Yeah.
I know that's the biggest game next week, especially with CFP implications, Big Ten championship app implications. It's going to be Dylan Gabriel and the Oregon Ducks versus Will Howard and the Ohio State Buckeyes with Jeremiah Smith, the super freshman who's been absolutely wowing everyone around the nation. Him and Ryan Williams, absolutely fantastic freshmen. And this is probably the biggest matchup of the year so far. Like, probably like for the rest of this year. It's the biggest game.
So real quick, I want to touch on this. I just happened across a video of Vanderbilt students or Vanderbilt fans going down Broadway with the goalpost.
Yes, it is. I'm going to update that and it's in the river. So
There, all right, great place for the goalpost, guys. Awesome.
they deserve it. They
I
deserve it. It's a
will
great
say
win. They'll eventually get them back, I
they'll
think.
get it back, hopefully. Next week also has Vanderbilt coming off of that upset playing Kentucky. So, woohoo. Both teams coming off of big upsets on big teams.
Yep.
Neither
You're
of them are
gonna
ranked, so they fly under the radar, but we want to keep you updated on certain games. Two teams coming off of big upsets, that means that game's going to be big because both teams have a lot riding on them right now. They're both riding on a big high.
we'll
Vanderbilt beat
also
number one
see.
and Kentucky beat number four.
Well, we're also gonna have to look out at the potential for a letdown from both teams, especially after emotions after a big
Yes.
win. Always happens. Probably what happened to Alabama this week against Vanderbilt, because that was an electric game by Alabama versus Georgia. To be honest, I couldn't tell who was going to win at all. Carson Beck threw a very sh he threw a strike towards the end of the game. Then Ryan Williams, being 17, showing out.
Hey
It
man,
was
I wish I
just
was his. I wish that was me at that age, man, making all that NIL money now. 17 making all that NIL money is crazy work.
He's got 2 more years to terrorize the nation. So
I
NFL,
will
beware.
I will be honest though. Know how much I don't know how much I'm buying into the stock of Carson Beck in the
His
draft.
stock definitely went down.
I He just hasn't impressed me at all this year. He should have gone with the class that just came out, if I'm being honest. He should have just gone into the draft, this past draft, because he hasn't played to a point that I can comfortably say he should be the first quarterback taken off the list. But then again, the quarterback class coming this next year doesn't really impress me across the board. So,
Well, currently the number one QB is Jalen Milrow
Milrow,
and I think a few other quarterbacks. I know that Shadur Sanders is up there. Uh, we know that there's going to be certain teams that he's going to want to go to, and I'm not sure where he's going to
Travis Hunter will
go.
be in the draft as well, right?
Yes, he's going to most likely be the number one overall pick.
He did say he
Depending
wants
on
to stay in Colorado.
he's going to be heavily coveted. He
Yes.
is definitely the best player in college football. And that will wrap it up. Don't forget to like and subscribe to the podcast,
Until
and
next
we'll
week.
catch you later. See ya.